Hey everybody, just before podcast This Escape starts, just a quick little announcement that if you want to hear Danny and I talk even more about escape rooms and what we do and the show, we are on the latest episode of the Reality Escape Pod, which is Dave Spira and PG Law's podcast, where they talk to people about escape rooms and immersive things and all that stuff. So if you want to listen to that, check it out. I've put a link in the show notes below to the episode. So even if you are listening to this way in the future, you can still click that link and it should take you to the right place. We love to talk about this sort of stuff, and it's really nice when we have interviewers like David and PG who know us so well and know escape rooms so well. It means that we can get really into a lot of very interesting stuff. So if you like hearing us talk about this, or you like escape rooms, or you like escape room podcasts or anything like that, check it out, because it is one of the best interviews that we've done, just because we can really drill down with people we know into the stuff that we do. So again, there's a link in the show notes. Check it out and enjoy the show. Welcome to Podcast This Escape, the podcast where we talk about the escape room we escaped from in the previous episode of this podcast. Eric, Julia, you did it! Congratulations!
Fancy and Jancy.
You've escaped!
Fancy and Jancy, we did it.
We did it!
Proud of
That
us.
was good. You did very well. It was
It was
really
a
fun
delight to watch and listen along to.
Truly, I love the fact that we just took off from the moment that Eric said, I'm going to put a sack on my head and not look for clues anymore.
And you kept wanting to backtrack, like you were just a little bit embarrassed that this was what you'd come up with, and I just had to go, no. You
Don't just
keep
second
that.
guess.
It was purely a joke, and I thought that we had truly dealt with the sack after we were looking for, like, the seam and figuring out if it had a secret the secret in it. But I had a sack on my head, and we were going full steam ahead.
Hell yeah.
It happens a lot that, like, people put out what they, like, it's a joke answer to the situation that turns out to be true. Even, like, I don't know the extent to which you noticed that the actual final puzzle for this room is you don't fit through the window. What do you have that will grease you up? Oh, grease yourself up with some grease. If you
had
didn't put
no
the grease
problem
on,
with that.
you would not have escaped the room.
I want to point out, I was not joking. I knew the grease that we were going to
Oh,
grease.
okay.
I
I
kept
did
using the
joke.
grease.
Yep.
Yeah, because why else would the grease be there?
Exactly. That's why I kept trying to grease myself up in the last third of the episode.
But no, did either of you, did you have a moment that you felt particularly smart, that you were proud of playing through the room?
And you both definitely
'Cause you
should.
should have some moments, but do you have any that you
I was
felt
very
good?
proud of you.
I felt really good while you guys were all vamping and I was writing down the letters. I was like, pull chains once per basket. You're on a roll, Julia. And then I'm just looking at this word. I'm like, what the heck is high tabo?
I will say, so I play tested this recently, and I did the exact same thing. It was like H-E-I-G? There's no word in the world that starts with H-E-I-G. I must be wrong. What am I doing here?
I love what you said. Then this gives so much resonance in the episode. You said, this is only a problem because height is spelled terribly.
Right.
And you knew that from
Because,
experience.
I'd experienced the exact same thing. Of when you're going through letter by letter, you see, like, B-A-S, you're like, great, that's probably the word basket. Yep, it is. H-E-I-G. I should give up. I'm going home. This
I'm like,
is nothing.
I went over that one like 4 or 5 times being like, am I missing something or including something that I shouldn't? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
And then,
it's so it just gets you when you go in letter by letter.
But you're
and
absolutely
then
right.
I got above floor and then I was just looking at H-E-I-G-H-T. That can't be a
That's
word.
nothing. That can't be anything.
Like, I'll show you how it looks on my page because here, let me see if I can exit out a little. But like, you can see how spaced out it is.
It is like perfect until it gets to the height, and then it's very hesitant.
Yeah, I was like, I above floor? No, that can't be
Yeah,
it.
above floor.
Yeah, more.
That was a very good moment, as you say, the rest of us vamping and joking and you getting down to business. That is a mark of very good, well-balanced podcasters. What they think. It's like in escape rooms, everyone can be working on the puzzles. It's rare in a physical escape room where you're on a time limit that people take 10 minutes to just chat with each other. Not impossible. Not impossible.
You don't turn towards like the one-sided glass and you're like, I'm just gonna do like a tight 5 just to make
Wow.
Honestly, that is all we do now because our life is just narrating our playthroughs of escape rooms. Like that's all we do. So when we go to real escape
it
rooms and we're
happens
not
there
being
too.
recorded, we're still like doing bits. We look to the cameras and we're like, all right, we're gonna go and do this. And it's
Yeah.
I love that. That sounds honestly really
broken our brains.
But yeah, so that sort of balance of team members, one taking it seriously and one doing the bits. I don't know, maybe some escape room teams are exactly like that, but in a podcast medium, oh boy, is that important.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And Eric, did you have a moment that you felt especially good in the room about your performance?
Oh, I mean the sack for sure.
Oh, Sap was perfect.
I want to highlight 2 moments where I was so confident and I was so incorrect. The first was the Roy G. Biv chains.
You were like, yeah, the Roy G. Biv chain.
Oh,
That's
it's
something
so
I've
hard.
heard of before.
You get given something like, you got right away. Can I pull on these chains? Will that do something? But then that was just taunting you for the entire room because you got that so quickly.
You were
then
like,
the
these chains, they gotta come back.
I mean, it was good. I'm like, the chains, I thought it was the final puzzle. I thought like a secret door was going to open up and it was going to let us out. But of course, that, I guess now, reflecting on it, and after I was so rude to the graffiti was trying to indicate us out of the window.
Yes,
So
you
that
can
makes
reach
sense.
for
It
freedom.
was trying to get you to reach around.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
We got
And then,
there
of course,
eventually.
the second one was where I immediately put 4119 into the lock, or into the code,
You were
and
so
it
confident
didn't
about
work.
it.
Now, that was, very fair because you're right. Those drips in their current state do look roughly like 4119. And then you just need to think, well, I just sort of put that into my brain because that's what they look like. But they don't say 4 and 9. The straight down drips obviously could look like 1s. But that 4 and that 9 are not actually 4 and 9. They're still missing bits. So
No, you're right.
it then involves needing to do that for
I
us.
did the exact same thing. Like I had 4119 written in my notes. Like that's what these will be. But it's like they can only get there because you're filling in gaps. And so you find something else that fills in the gaps in a different way, and it messes. So the 4 is still a 4, but then it's like 7 and 0.
Yeah.
But the thing I really liked, actually, and I think I want to talk about Roy G. Biv for a second because Roy G. Biv but it's a great thing. It's like it's a great example of how like escape rooms and puzzles work. Is that the biggest like tripping point was that Roy G. Biv has 7 elements, but in your head it's like 6, which it should be. It only has 7 because Isaac Newton was superstitious, but it has 6 bits.
That's a podcast episode you just said out loud. That's that's an episode of hardcore history. All you just said.
Yeah, Isaac Newton was doing the colors, and he got to 6, and he was like, "Oh, that's bad. That's like 666. Like I don't know. I should add a 7.
Devil
I'll
number.
just split the purple into indigo and violet." That's why there's not actually. That's why everyone does like skips indigo or violet because they're the same color. He split just to make a
I
better
didn't
number.
know that. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
No, that's
but,
awesome.
So like so in your head, it's like it's a great example of how the connections work for these puzzles. Is all you knew was I got to take out red and green. Well, I've got 6 chains. Rainbow has 6 colors, and I could remove red and green. That's like maybe there's a connection, and so you went straight to it. And it's that like, and it's just because you hadn't seen any red or green anywhere. So it's like, well, I need to supply it myself.
Oh, that's why
within
it
a
was
6.
it was the colors, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's where
I-
the connection was. It wasn't out of nowhere. It was like, how do I remove red and green? Well, there's a sequence of 6 I could remove red and green from. Why don't I try that?
The thing is, if we were an adventuring party, I definitely think that. I mean, I said this during the episode that like, I'm here because I know how games fit together, and Julia's here because Julia's good at puzzles. So it's like Julia's here because she's a wizard, and I'm here because I'm a rogue. I'm here to unlock locked doors, but not to know that maybe that the chest that's locked is actually a mimic and will eat.
Right. And now I'm just like, oh, fascinating.
And it
Yeah,
was good.
just
You
writing it
stuck
down.
your hand in all of the places that needed to be stuck. You chewed
Yeah, you
on
did a lot
things.
of
You stuck your
sticking.
head in places.
Yeah, that's what you need.
I'm fancy.
I'm Jancy.
But overall, I think the thing, like listening to the two of you play, is it was clear that you have a good understanding of how games and puzzles should be structured. Because for both of you, you did what is a hard skill for people to learn in escape rooms, right? You would look at something and you'd go, all right, I've got this, but I don't know yet how that's going to output a solution. Like you said to yourself, I think halfway through, you're like, we're looking at the drips. How is this going to solve the chains? Like, how can we get a solution from this? In the end, it didn't solve the chains, but it's the right attitude to have going in. It's like, okay, I've been given something. What are the criteria that this could output something?
Absolutely.
And because of that, you're like, oh, there's 6 dots, but I don't see how it could output a solution.
You had other skills as well, like reevaluating almost your inventory. Which things have we already used? Which have we dealt with? Which are still open?
So, it's a good thing for people to listen to if they haven't done these types of games before. It's nice because it shows the right mentality. It's how you get there is the way you're checking off your items, the way you're going, this could be something, but how does it connect? It paid off really well. Like you got through and you solved everything in a nice order, and it really cascaded by the end because you'd done all the groundwork to find everything. And then once you got one trigger, it was like, oh, and then this goes to this. That's a square. This is 4 down. We already solved the axe. Don't worry about it. So it's good fun.
It's like doing a jigsaw puzzle, right? Like you don't just keep pieces in the box and then take each one out and be like, all right, where does this one go? You have to go box, organize them, and then start putting them together, right? So like finding all of the pieces was important to solving all the puzzles.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess I'm not used to puzzles that have definitive solutions for a long time, because the majority of the things that I make are for actual play.
Where you make problems but don't set a single solution for them. That's for their skills to come up with.
I almost never come up with a hard solution for what's supposed to happen. Because I want to see what they do, and I want to see how the dice rolls out on it, and be like, okay, are you doing enough things, and then this happens. I mean, that's what it looks like behind the scenes.
Which is always one of the challenges of trying to seriously incorporate escape room elements into role-play games, like where the puzzles are actually there.
Yeah, so like the thing that the wording that I've kind of stuck with in my head after, because we talk about this a lot about puzzles and actual play, is that the reason puzzles that are specific like this, like we are dealing with an escape room, we make actual like puzzles that like fit together as puzzles. Because when you do an escape room, you're there to do puzzle solving. When you're playing an RPG, it's an exercise in problem solving, which is very, very different, right? Like, it's like if you go to a real escape room with a mindset of like, the problem is I'm stuck, how do I solve this? The answer is you hit the big button by the door that's the emergency release, and the game master opens the door for you, and then you leave. That's how you solve the problem of being stuck. That's separate from doing puzzles. And RPG players want to solve problems. It's like when a wizard says, you're locked in my tower, you must solve my 3 runic puzzles to escape. You go, no, wizard, I'm not doing that. I reckon I could destroy the tower.
Fireball the wall.
Yeah, I reckon I could break my way out of here. The problem you said to me, I'm going to engage and try and find a better solution, a different solution. And so often set things is not correct, right? People want to problem solve. They feel better when they break it than they do when they solve it.
It's a real Brandon mentality, right, Eric? One of our players is currently playing a mad bomber as his class. And a lot of the problems have so far been solved with, I throw a bomb at the ceiling and what happens?
It's very effective.
Solves the problem.
Yeah, that's true.
It's still funny. I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
but
and it's great.
gonna work out.
As a swishy co-player, though, I'm not.
As the person standing next to the bomb, that's a bit harder to do.
The first time I wrote something to Game Master, I'm not very good at improv, so I did lots of branching. What if they do this? What if they do this? What if they're antagonistic to these people? What if they're nice to these people? And every single time I did a branch, one of the branches would be, what if they just set fire to everything?
Yeah. What if that's
a big possibility?
It's funny. I guess like doing this, I think of throwing myself at this kind of mentality of just like, let's just see what happens, and we'll keep trying stuff until I guess the lock undoes. It's like that's like why I think I threw myself so hard at the things I knew, where I'm like, oh, it's definitely this, because the biggest difference between a puzzle and role playing something is that the only thing that happens is that it goes password not correct. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't get punished for putting in 4119 necessarily.
Exactly.
Because it's a lock. It's a lock instead of like, I do something that has consequences. So I think that's why it was okay, where I'm like, I'm going to throw the thing I think I know at this as hard as I can. And if it works, it's going to make me look really cool. But if it doesn't, Julia's just going to follow up with the pieces, which is what happened with 4119.
There are minor fails. There are no fumbles.
Yeah.
No.
How did this compare, Eric, to your experiences in physical escape rooms?
I mean, it definitely felt similar, for sure. Like, again, playing the person making... The thing that has unlocked so much for me, and I think about this all the time in terms of any sort of creative output, is that a person made this. And therefore, as a person, they live in the world, they are a part of society, and also they make it for other humans to consume, whether intentionally obfuscate it by being, maybe it's some sort of like Dadaist art, or it's supposed to be like highfalutin or intentionally dense to demonstrate how smart they are, if it's like a scholarly book, or something that's supposed to be accessible and fun for other people to use, if it's supposed to be for other people to enjoy and understand and digest. So that's very much why I've been playing, why I like participating in other people's stuff, because I'm like, someone had to make this for me to have fun. So what could this be for me to enjoy it? And that's been really nice. I think it's just been really nice to have someone say something out and just kind of mess around, because it's like, well, I'm gonna joke around this while I eventually get to the puzzle, but I'm gonna say I'm having fun while in the escape room to make sure that they know I'm having fun.
Yes, I agree. I love when something good has happened in an escape room. I like being vocal about it, just in case the person who made it is the one listening.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like, you got to see us dancing every time we solved a puzzle.
That was good.
I still remember, I have such a distinct memory of back when we were doing a lot of amateur musical theatre, just going, community theatre, and watching the audience and having one night where there was a guy center of the audience, 5 rows back, the most prominent person, a big guy, bright white shirt, very easy to see, who spent the entire performance with his arms crossed across his chest and no emotion on his face, just staring forward. And the whole time, everyone on stage is looking at this person like, oh no, what is going on? And at the end, he gets up, standing ovation. He turns up after the show. He's like, oh, I loved it. It was so much fun. It's like, well, then tell me while you're watching. I need you to laugh. I need you to smile. It makes a big difference to see. So he was in there being like, I'm having a really good time. I'm really enjoying myself.
Was that the guy who wrote the note from the boat?
When this show's done, I'm going to take their shoulders and stick their hand in between their neck.
All right, love. After the show, I'm going to go over and I'm going to tell them how much I loved it. But I can't show
I'm going to stick a flower right in their hand.
I'm going to take their toes and stick them in their hip bones. I'm going to take their left leg and put it on their right leg. It's going to be great.
And Julia, with Eric's notes that this does have some of the feel to actual escape rooms, what does that mean your thoughts on actual escape rooms are now?
To go do another one?
This is exactly like what I wanted an escape room to be. So this was like a great first experience because it met all of the expectations that I had going into it and delighted me to no end. So now I'm going to have to go and do a in-person escape room and feel what that experience is like. Though it probably won't be as good in comparison because I like being able to like open different tabs and look at the different clues and be like, okay, this overlays like this. And I don't have to like run across the room 3 times to make sure that like that number matches that number. You know what I mean?
Sure. But if there are like loose things that you are collecting, it is satisfying to build a good collection in the real room.
It is nice in a real escape room to be the person sitting in the middle being like, hand me those clues. Bring them to me and I shall decipher these.
Something like many years ago when we were still in the early stages, we did a room that was just, we got big cables, like really fat cables that needed full-on lifting, and we just needed to connect them at one side of the room to the other. And for some reason, it was so simple, but just physically doing that made me feel like I was on Survivor.
There's something about, though, and I know that we were doing that for time and you're sitting right there. I like that you were narrating it instead of doing it. There's something about doing something and you're like, I don't know what's happening here. I just can't do it. And sometimes it's based on the escape room. I did an escape room that was like a spy escape room that was very difficult. And there was a thing that had a projector, like with laminates on it. And we were supposed to find some coordinates, blah, 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 that showed us somewhere in a city. And we were using the laminates, or what's the word I'm looking for?
No,
that's good.
That's good.
Yeah,
transparencies?
Yeah.
Thank you, the
Ah,
transparencies.
okay.
Yes, I was a high school English teacher, and I'm like, oh my god, I know exactly what this is. Come on. Where the transparencies, and the transparencies were worn away. It wasn't like there was Sharpie and it just wasn't there, and so we spent the last 10 minutes, and we were on like the last leg of the escape room trying to figure out what this thing was, and it's because the transparencies weren't that great.
Yeah.
And of course, when we walked out, no one came over the loudspeaker and said, "Yeah, this isn't that good." They just let us fail, and then we failed. So I know that
That's a
you
shame.
two are in the biz, and like that's just what happens
No,
sometimes.
they
But I
should
did like
definitely
knowing-
have maintenance going on that.
Yeah. That
Right, I
seems
want to be
something
like, did I solve the puzzle?
Mm.
Like when I
Yeah.
asked about the
Oh.
skeleton, I like wanted to know. I'm like, did the
That was
puzzle
very
sound
fair.
go off?
No, yeah,
Yeah.
feedback and lack of feedback is
Yeah,
definitely a
there
thing
is-
that needs good balance.
Yeah, there is nothing worse as well as like feedback is a big thing of like, you know, something's meant to go somewhere and you're not quite sure whether you're doing it right or whether the little tags that are meant to read each other inside the object are a bit old and need to be
Exactly.
replaced. You never want that. And the best escape rooms, the ones that do really well, are very careful about their maintenance. They're very like
It's
I
a video
remember-
game problem as well.
We were somewhere backstage
Yes.
recently. I can't remember which escape room it was, but we were doing like a tour of their backstage stuff, and they were showing off their workshop where they were just like, "Here's that prop you had in your room. Well, here's 80 of them. We've laser printed 80 fresh ones, and every time it goes bad, we'll give you it. We just throw a new one in the room. Like we just got a whole bunch. We have a laser cutter in the back, and we just cut a new one and throw it. Like so, people the top rooms are very careful about that sort of stuff because it's never a good feeling.
And yeah, I desperately need affirmation and praise. So the more someone tells me or gives me a little green light that says, yes, that's good, the better for me.
I do. I have so many
Right.
memories of being in an escape room, pulling on something that I think is meant to open, and just like staring at the camera, being like, I'm starting to pull. I'm gonna pull this.
This is good.
I'm beginning to pull. You have to stop me.
Stop it!
Don't pull it.
Stop
That shouldn't be pulled.
But like
That's my grandma's. I don't know why I
Please.
put it in the escape room, but don't
It's
break
not
it.
a
It's from
puzzle.
my grandma's house.
But to your point, Eric, like one of my few examples of escape rooms that I've seen in media was the Game Changer episode where they did the escape room, right?
Oh, yes.
And
we know the
have-
designer of that one.
It was incredible, right? But
Yeah.
they have Sam on the screen, the host, the
That was
entire
clever.
time,
It was amazingly done.
reacting when they get stuff right and being like, oh, you're close. Like, oh. And that's kind of the validation that as a player, I worry that I wouldn't get in most escape rooms, but I would get
No.
in something like this or
Yeah.
something like the Game Changer
And
episode or
actually,
something like
it's an
that.
interesting one because that room was designed by Tommy Honton, who's a fantastic designer. And he has an escape room in LA called Stash House, which is a great room. But Stash House also has an element of that, of this, as you're playing, there is a little bit of back and forth. There's
As
a
I'm
little bit of-
thinking of every single one of our top escape rooms that we've done, every single one of them has had prominent
they have
feedback.
a kind of a feedback that is specific and often narratively.
Often strong narrator
like,
presence.
in like media, like a very good, what's the word? Diegetic.
Yeah.
Like you're
Yes.
getting that feedback, but it's also not like the game master being like, "Hey, good work, guys. You know, you're doing very well." It's like a character in the room, part of the story, being like, "Oh, why are you solving my puzzles?"
I feel like a psychologist would have a lot to say about maybe we didn't get enough praise from our parents as
Is
children.
this why
and
you
that's
do
we like
trivia
it.
as well? Because I think
Yes.
this is why I do trivia.
100%.
Oh,
That is
you're
why.
so
I like
smart.
winning because I want someone to tell me, "Hey, good job. Here's a prize."
You get ticks. You just get things that are marked right a lot. It's fantastic.
That's also that's an ADHD thing for me, where it's the serotonin boost of like checking off a box or crossing something off a list. I'm like, yes, give it to me. Give me the praise. Give me the satisfaction.
Oh,
I'm now thinking about trying to communicate with an escape room with there being it's like 90s theme and there's a radio and it's like, this is Delilah, where you can call in and do your requests for somebody you love out there. This one goes out to the team in the room that says, and this song's called Don't Go Breaking My Stuff by Janice Joplins and the Droplets.
that's amazing. And we have done,
done a room
one
like
room
that,
that
actually.
was set
Oh
in
my
a sort of
God.
radio DJ sort of area.
In
It
Niagara
would not
Falls.
surprise me.
And
Yeah,
that
the
had
hint
feedback
system.
coming out through the radio.
Mm,
It's
there were
That's
things
so
to
cool.
listen to.
people
That sounds-
they
that's
just play with
incredible.
some really fun stuff in the escape room.
We just
scene.
need to take a trip to Niagara Falls, clearly, Eric, so we can do an escape room. Well, you and
Julia,
I
if
can
we
do an
go to-
escape room, and then Amanda stays outside because she doesn't like escape rooms.
Amanda sits on a bench and says, "I hope you had fun," and we said we did, and then we
It's
all
like,
go.
I read a book.
If we go to the Canada side, they have a Boston Pizza there, which is a chain of pizzerias that are so bad, but
As
also
someone
so
who-
good.
As someone who lived in Boston, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we'll get pictures of Molson. It will be great.
Beautiful.
But no, look, you guys did really well getting through the room. I thought you did very well going through the skeleton puzzle. You immediately kind of understood the logic of it, the wording of it. You got it through, and then it was just again like you had a series of unbroken letters, and it was where does that break up? No green or red. Oh, it's no green or red.
Well, I stared at that for a good 5 minutes, and then Eric says, "Oh, it's no green or red." I'm like, "Yeah, it is no green or red. You're right. You got me."
I also stared at it. That's okay.
But no, it
remember 4119? Remember what you
my
view
failures?
changes?
Thank you, bud.
But it was very good to listen to. There wasn't much that changed. I playtested this recently. There were a few little things that changed. Some of the wording on that skeleton about how to deal with the ribs, I think, did that change?
Yeah. That was just crack the ribs in half initially, but that wasn't.
And it felt like, and I
Get
was trying to
rid of
break
enough.
the individual ribs to be like R and the first half of an E, and then the second half of an E and another R. So I had it been like
Right.
R E R.
The
So we
only
changed the
actually
wording a little.
substantial change was initially the second half of the drip puzzle was also in the graffiti, and the bars were just bars,
Yes.
unmarked. But that felt you felt that was a little too early. You looked at those two things immediately together and immediately put them together because of how they were. And the bars just added an extra element to it, and I think that came out well.
That I love it.
Yeah.
So we added the bars because I wanted, when we were playing it, like it was like one added action that needed to reveal the rest of it rather than just see it in one place in the drips and see it somewhere else. And you immediately were very good at being like, I see one symbol on these bars. Huh. Can we mess with the bars a little? Can I give them a twist? Oh, look at this!
I want to
All
touch the
four
bars.
of them.
Let me touch
You know,
them.
and like it's not a puzzle. It's not a problem. But it's just a little like, can I do one extra little thing?
And it is
it's
100% the sort of thing that a physical escape room would do.
Oh yeah, and it's a nice way to get like early rewards because you, like you were saying earlier, so much of the room is collecting all the puzzle pieces, piling them up, and then solving it all at the end. But you don't want to have no wins before that point. You
Yeah.
want to have a couple of little like, good job, nice work. And that I think is a nice early one to have. So I'm glad we moved it to the bars, and I'm glad it worked so well for you that you did it exactly as we pictured it in our head it would be done, which is great for us.
Another one that happened pretty much exactly the way I pictured it, figuring out how to interpret the basket height clue. Because you got all that information, you knew there was a basket out there, but you were throwing out all sorts of different possible guesses about what that could mean. And then as soon as you magnified and saw the basket properly, it just
I was like,
all
"Those are two
slotted
hats?"
into place for you, apparently. And
Can I say
that's
I had
perfect.
no idea what that was at all? Not even a little bit. I'm like, what a cool basket the Axeman designed.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, two heads, got it, great, two heads."
Mm.
And I'm
there's
like,
also-
"Oh, interesting how all of these numbers are like
Yeah.
multiples
Even
of two.
Yeah,
numbers?
they're all
Yeah.
even numbers.
Even numbers. That's
oh,
the
I
thing.
can split
Again,
them.
Numbers, not my specialty. Not my thing, really.
Julia, I could not have come up with that. I was just like, neato.
Neato,
I
sweet
guess my
numbers,
head's
bro.
being involved. My head's being used with a skull head to measure what's happening.
Yeah.
That's what it's
amazing.
good for.
Yeah.
True.
I want to ask really quickly about one thing
Mm.
about the peephole because I had a different solution.
Ooh.
Okay.
What
The
was your
gum
different
was
solution?
good. The gum was very good. I
Uh-huh.
was gonna take one of the bones and smash it and push it out the other way.
Oh,
Oh,
Either
and then
try
like
to claw
catch it
back-
with your hand.
Yeah, try to
Oh,
catch
that
it
also
with my
probably
hands.
could have worked.
I think if that had happened, I would have, I don't know, tried to make it fall somewhere in such a way that you would still need the extra stickiness of gum to grab it.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
But
Yeah, I
that
would've
would
put the
be
gum on a bone.
that would be
Yeah,
the sort of
bone gum.
improv that would make me panic. To be honest, I probably just would have said, "Oh no, the other side of the door must be smaller. It's not pushing all the way through."
Mm.
I mean, that kind of makes sense, honestly. But I mean, this is a real.
I
Escape rooms remind
appreciate
me
that
of-
it worked, that you did what I wanted, because that is the sort of improv that would make me panic and the room would come out just a little bit poorer for it.
But I think there's also a timing thing, right? Like you found that, and it was before your like cascade of solutions. So
Yeah.
it's fine to be if you had done it at that time, we probably would have been fine to be like, no, that doesn't work. No, it doesn't work.
Good point.
Find the gum. If you had something else that sort of started that cascade of, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then you're like, now we need that people. Okay, I'm going to grab a bone, I'm going to shove it through and catch on the other side.
Then it's likely we would have given
Then it's
it
like,
to you.
cool, we'll go with it because that's a viable solution. And we don't want to be like, no, better stop all of your momentum. We got to drill down into the gum. Like you let it flow.
I like that thing of it like being a little bit too far away, and then I needed to like put the gum on a
It
bone
could also be that, yeah.
and like try to reach and go grab it. I mean, escape rooms, especially in this way, ones that aren't physical, remind me of like point and click adventure games.
Yes, 100%.
Like Sam and Max or Freddy Fish or Putt Putt Goes to the Moon.
Putt, yeah.
Shout out to my main man Putt Putt, who's pretty much the same age we are.
Oh no!
I know.
He was just
I
a
looked at his
baby when he
driver's
went to the
license.
zoo.
I have an image. I have an emote of the driver's license in our Slack. I know what it is. He's about our age. And that's like, you could have said it didn't work. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you immediately went to the gum so fast. But I'm like, well, we have a perfectly good skeleton at home.
You know what, Eric? I just want to shout out your real life ingenuity in the story of you getting the AirPod out of the grate, the sewer
yeah.
grate.
Oh, it was perfect.
Because I would have never thought of that until one, you made a joke about chewing the gum, and two, I remembered that story and I was like, oh, I can just pull it out that way. Like if I can't get my little fingies in, get something sticky, pull it out.
Yeah, there's so many people have gotten their AirPods bounce into a grate that like it's now a viral trend piece for people to find out ways to pull it out. So it's like you get a really small magnet, a small powerful magnet, and you tie like some string around it, and then you just go down, and it's magnetic in some places. The number of people that stand there and watch you while you're doing something, they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm concentrating, trying to save a piece of equipment right now. Go
It's
away.
a lot of money.
Yeah, but that was fun. That was crazy. I forgot about that.
You also need to carry a high-vis jacket or a hard hat or something. Then they'll stop paying attention
then
to
they
you.
won't care.
You've learned that from Ocean's 11. We understand.
Exactly. Social engineering is the best form of hacking. Everyone knows this.
Everyone knows it. All right, thank
Can I tell you, this is something we say in my household all the time. Amanda, my wife, and also one of the players under the party, says this to me constantly. Her favorite movies are heist movies, and we say, she says to me all the time when we have our problems, like, let's just social engineer our way in and just fly. And I'm like, I guess we can do that.
She's of the belief that if you walk somewhere with confidence with a clipboard, you can get anywhere, and I've seen her do it, and it's true.
I 100% believe it. I desperately wish I could be that sort of person.
Me too.
You just do it for low stakes stuff, because Amanda hasn't listen, I wish that she could have pulled out $1 million just by walking confidently somewhere, but it's always just like, oh, we need to find a bathroom in the city, let's just walk in somewhere and look like we belong, and let's just go. So low stakes stuff, because here's the thing, no one will ever call you on stuff. I think the thing that I said before about things being made by humans, I was just talking about games and media, but institutions, companies, jobs are made by people, and people don't like stopping things unless you get 1 in 5 people love stopping things. So you just roll the dice, and what are they going to say? They're going to say you can't be here, and you say, oh, okay,
my bad.
Deuces.
Bye.
My bad. In our part of New York City, there's a lot of film shoots that happen, and not anymore because the writer strike is holding it up, because they deserve it, and we stand with the writers, and I've been out there quite a lot. But before, there's always film shoots everywhere. So, and there's always food, because it's catered, and that's a big part of film shoots. There's food there. So once I walked up, recently I walked up, and I'm like, oh man, can I just grab some fruit for the team over? I gotta go get it. And he's like, what department are you in? And I'm like, marketing. And he's like, there's no marketing here. I'm like, man, I tried. And then I walked away, and he didn't run after me. I just left, and he
just gave him a story.
Yeah, now he just has a story, and I could have gotten some bananas. Like, low stakes for everybody involved.
Eric, you mean there wasn't a whole sequence where the palace guards chased after you for stealing a loaf of bread?
Were you one jump ahead?
Yes, thank you.
Who is your only friend? Abu?
Abu?
How tasty
your
do
wife,
the local
Jasmine.
women consider you?
I will say, I was really hoping you would have been like, you don't know who I am, it's me, Eric, the best boy. I'm the best boy. Because it's
You
my
can always just
favorite
say
thing
you're
in the
the
credits
best
of
boy,
a movie.
Eric.
I'm the best boy.
Or
I need the
Grit-
proof.
I know.
What department are you? I'm the best boy.
I should have thought, I knew I had to look, because I didn't look like someone who was working necessarily on the shoot. I looked like some, just whatever I was wearing. And I was like, oh, I gotta say, it seemed like I'm from the studio. So I'm like, I'll say a studio thing.
Yeah.
I have friends who work in film, and they told me I should have just said I was with the studio, and I'll just do that going forward. But I was just gonna grab like a bunch of bananas and then bring it
Also,
up to the office, trying to walk away from the guy.
Dude, just hair and makeup next time. Hair and makeup is
I
always
think
there.
I would have generically just said
That's fair.
art.
Hair and makeup. The art department.
Where you gotta take bites of the apple.
Oh,
you
yeah.
gotta try.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you weren't allowed to take any bites of the apple. That's the whole
That
problem.
was the problem.
That's very true. That's very true.
Well, I think in terms of the discussion of the room, I think we've probably
I
covered.
think we've exhausted a
stuff.
lot.
You guys did very well. I was very pleased. It was fun to listen to, and you smashed through it. You solved the puzzles.
You made this very easy for me.
Thank you.
I wanna go back to something that
Please.
I said I promised we would talk about in the
Okay.
last
Oh,
episode,
yes.
because it's the thing I think about all the time, which is the actual play form.
Sure.
And it was activated when we were talking about like the feedback element, as opposed to something with video games or with other escape rooms where they don't talk to you. And I realized that like when you're doing something that's not for performance, it's just you against the puzzle, and failing is fine. Like, you were in there for an hour and then you had to leave. I don't care, as the person who made this. Just we transacted. You paid me money, you played the game, and then you left. The same thing with video games, and I think video games are wrestling with this right now. Because, for example, we were talking about God of War earlier. I don't know much about Ragnarok because I'm still waiting for it to come to PC. But I know a big problem is that they keep giving you
That's
hints to
what I've
puzzles that you
heard.
haven't tried.
Mhm.
And that's
You can
of
turn
the
that
push and
off, though,
pull.
I believe.
Oh, that'll
I
be my
hope so.
first step.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But the thing is like, well, if then you're just stuck. What are you going to do? And whenever I get stuck in video games, I say I don't blame myself. I say someone did a bad job here,
Yeah.
and I'm just gonna move on, and it's fine. I'm giving myself permission to look up a guide. It's totally whatever.
Yeah.
But what I like
do
doing
that all
things,
the time, and Jake gets on my case. My husband gets on my case a lot because he's like, "You're cheating." I'm like, "No, I'm enjoying the game the way that I want to enjoy the
Thank you.
game."
no one knows.
Yeah. Sometimes
Yeah.
I just need a little help, and that makes it more enjoyable. Like, I wouldn't have enjoyed Outer Wilds as much as I did if I hadn't looked up
Ugh.
guides on how to do a bunch of the puzzles.
There was
For
some
sure.
tough stuff.
It's like,
I wouldn't have.
do you know how many times I went through the black hole and didn't know to turn around to see the white hole, and I just kept dying because I was floating through space trying to hit other planets?
Oh,
Hey,
yes.
gamers don't look up. Gamers never look up. That's
Or
the big
behind you,
thing about-
apparently.
or behind
That's
you,
it.
for sure.
Yeah.
And so I want someone to facilitate at least this being an enjoyable experience to audience members. I think is a nice little addition to the entire forum of what we have
Yeah.
going here. Of like, I'm not just playing a game to play the game. Oh hell yeah, there's a dog. We're not just playing the game to play the game. We're playing the game for enjoyment, but of an audience, which usually means enjoyment, or at least fun simulated frustration from the people
Oh, yeah.
participating. And that's why I like that we had someone we could check with. And I think that's a big part of the actual play form that people don't understand. Like, this is the Matt Mercer effect, right? Where everyone assumes that their DM is as good as Matt Mercer and can prep this far in ahead and has this many good voices, because the only example they have of someone else doing it is someone who professionally is a voice actor.
Yes.
And also has a budget to buy tons of minis, and also has
25
other voice
years
actor,
of tabletop RPG experience.
It
and all
helps.
the other players are also all voice actors who've been doing this forever. And there are so many elements that go behind this that are like shielded for the theatrics here, you know, you don't want to remember, even there is verisimilitude of enjoying something for what it is. You still don't want to like think about that you're watching a play while you're watching a play. You want to be immersed in the story, but like there's still so much when it's something you can do at home. Like you in your house, you cannot necessarily put on a play or a movie. I know what we're all talking about here, but you know this specifics of that particular like art form, but you can do exactly the same thing that they do on your favorite actual play podcast that you can do at your own table. But then you're like, why isn't it working? It's like, well, there's a lot of things that are missing here, and one of which is making sure that everyone has a good time, which is different than just playing the game itself.
Oh, yeah.
And I find also sometimes it's interesting to see actual play people who have gone the other way around, where they're very, very good at playing role-playing games. They love playing role-playing games. They're great at it. They enjoy it. They play with their friends. They're very, very good. But then they get caught up in this, is that fun going to translate to the audience? Because right now this is great fun for the players, and everybody at home is going, skip. I'm bored of this. I don't, things that are engaging when you're playing a narrative are different than stuff that is engaging for people listening and following along, right? And so like when I play an RPG, not streamed, not live, I'm one of those types of players who loves like the very specific tactical minutia and numbering of a combat. I love it. I like legitimately will sit there and be like, oh, wait a minute. That'll do like between 8 and 12 damage. And then he's going to have this much. So if you're do this, which will double that. I think that's great. If I'm streaming
a nightmare to listen to.
If I'm streaming it, I'm like, just boom, 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 boom. We pass that. We move that. We don't worry. We go, like, even like narratively, there are things that are different for an audience and a player. Like dramatic irony is great when you're an audience watching someone. It's terrible when you're playing that character in a game. You're like, well, why did you twist it? I did the right thing, and then you made stuff go wrong. That doesn't feel correct.
I would highly disagree. I love when my consequences catch up with me as a character, and Eric knows that. Eric knows that for a fact.
I do. Yes,
my two really DMs, fun. Eric and my other home DM, love talking to each other about how they're going to just mess with my character so much.
But I think there's an interesting thing with like a lot of times in games, it's great when you have made a mistake and then things go wrong. And I think in gaming and table role playing, you always need to be able to trace something back to a mistake they made or to the consequences of their actions. Yeah. Whereas so often in drama, in movies, it'll be a character does everything right, but a terrible twist of fate means the plan didn't work. And an audience goes, ooh, because no one is actually that person who's like, why am I being punished? Wait a minute, I did the right thing. And then cruel fate has changed. Like that's much more engaging as for an audience than for a player, because a player, you want to be able to justify their suffering based on, remember 10 episodes ago where you adopted that gremlin? Well, now the gremlin's going to eat you. It's like, great, that's fine. I adopted the gremlin. I'm being betrayed.
I would be such an asshole if I made the gremlin eat you 10 episodes later, though.
Fair.
Yeah, well,
that's fair.
But so it's interesting. The dynamics of actual play, they're interesting because you want to then balance both of those things, and it's a fun world.
It's a lot of different people and very different groups that you are worried about entertaining.
Yeah. Finding stuff that's good for the player, but good for the audience, but good for the DM, but good for it's great. I don't know. It's interesting. It's a fun little dance.
That's the magic of editing too. I think a lot more podcasts, especially actual play podcasts, should be more tightly edited. That's my hot take here.
Editing is incredible.
I firmly believe that that unless you're doing something that's particularly special, actual play episodes should be like 65 minutes.
I would say like under 90.
70.
Yeah.
Instead of and like any more than that is like this cannot be. You can't listen to this in one sitting, which is what are you supposed to do? It's a fictional thing. I mean, we think about a lot of this stuff. I think the thing you're touching on, which is the next step forward, is like, can we apply some artistic criticism to our work? Then it's like, okay, we're having fun. the next step is, well, is everyone enjoying themselves? For example, if you use the example of you being super crunchy, I could tell you definitively by thinking for 3 seconds, I don't think people are going to like listening to
hugely.
this.
Exactly. And
so I think it's just like remembering this the first step is like, let's make sure as everyone's having fun and facilitate that. And the second step is like, let's be a little bit critical and self-edit edit or self-edit, whenever we're doing it.
For sure. And we have to do this with puzzles as well in our episodes, because we try to I try my hardest to make sure that the puzzles are going to sound interesting when people are narrating them. But you know what? Sometimes I don't get that balance right, and there are some crunchy bits that they just have to sit down.
And especially you can see that compared to like the earliest rooms we do compared to now. There are way more puzzles in our first season that require multiple steps of processing and doing and crunching that are great when you're doing it. They're so much fun to solve. But the audio is just like, oh, I suppose I just cut this whole section where nothing's happening. You know, and like getting to this feeling of like certain puzzle types being like, we'll cut that, right? Because the audio for that is just someone going 2, 7, 5, 50. Okay, wait, 1. Okay, so let's go 3. And it's like, cool, that's boring to listen to, great to solve. So we kind of get rid of those from our library of types of puzzles, and like changing that up, and it's the same sort of stuff, as well as dealing with like what is great in a real escape room that is incredibly boring in an audio escape room, or not fun in an audio. Like early on, there's a bit more. You search this thing, but you didn't say that you searched this part of that thing to do that. You know. That's not that interesting. But with the sack, you can make it interesting because it is so definitive. It's like you search the sack with your hand, but it's a visual thing. So it's like putting it on or flipping it inside out is like a puzzle, but like opening the 3rd drawer of a table and reaching the back, opening the 4th drawer and reaching the back. That's physically
that's tough.
Something, but it's not. So it's taken a while to
It was like when we talked about
out.
the chains, and you mentioned the idea of maybe moving around the chains to see what happens if they like look different in any way. And in a real physical escape room, I would 100% expect there to be like different nails on the wall and something that tells you where to hang chains. And then once you've hung them all, you step back and it looks like a word. But that just doesn't work in audio because you're not going to get any, oh, wow, look at that moment.
Yeah, we would just tell you, now it looks like a word, and the word is chain. You're like, oh, cool, thanks, man. You know?
The word is chain.
Damn recursive puzzles.
That's a great red herring to make all the chains, if you follow a crazy set of instructions, just say, yeah, we're chains. What are you doing?
Chains.
Like,
it's chain. It is chain.
We've always been chains.
It says Roy G. Biv, and then you can take out the R, and you take out the G. I think that the biggest thing, the difference, what you were saying about solving problems, solving puzzles, is that like when you're solving a problem, the next question I ask is always, what specifically are you looking for? And then I can tell you exactly the thing you want, and then I know exactly what it is you can roll to do it. When you're doing a puzzle, you can't do that necessarily. It's like, I'm trying to find the solution to the puzzle. That's what I'm looking for.
We are lucky enough that we get to do almost the inverse sort of thing by using that same rule. Where in a physical escape room, something would be very easy to search for. You just search everything. Like, feel all the stones outside. You could just have found those little shape buttons. But instead, I get to say, no, there's a lot. You're going to have to give me more information first.
Sure.
Yeah, so we can change
And then I jump in and I say, the numbers.
What if it's 4 down and 2 across? What's F?
What? Yeah.
What is SRE? It probably means south, right? South red, of course.
But it's also true. That's why locks are really interesting in escape rooms, and you can use them in the audio as well because they give you a goal. Because you end up going, I'm now looking for a 4-digit number. Something's going to get me 4 digits. So when you find like the code, if you hadn't figured out already, like you found that like this kind of looks like 4119 a little bit earlier. But if you hadn't,
which was the correct solution, of course.
Yeah,
exactly. But if you hadn't, then you'd be like, wait a minute. Now all I need is 4 digits. Can I relook at these tiles? Can I relook at these things? Is there a way to turn them into 4 numbers? Oh, there is. It's 4119. And then et cetera, et cetera. But like they give you goals, and it's a really fun way to structure a room when you're building it.
And there's a fun mix because I do like the idea of having something that you've had with you. It's been your companion for a lot of this room, but you haven't figured out a way to use it. And then it's the final thing you need, like a bowl of grease.
Graffiti.
Or the graffiti.
The graffiti was meant to be the first step. That's... No, it is nice. It's a good fit, but it can be hard as well, right?
Of course, because you're
like,
trying to apply it to everything.
You know, you literally,
Hammer,
it's the classic thing.
nails.
Yeah, if you give someone a hammer at the start of the room, they will think everything's a nail. And
Yeah.
so it's fun if nothing's a nail for a long time, and then the final step is, and then you reveal a giant nail. And like, oh my God, the hammer!
Finally, the hammer, we can use
the
it!
nail, I can do it finally! It's a good feeling, but it's hard to manage sometimes to make sure they get that moment.
That's very funny. I won't have to think about that.
Just keep giving us a hammer and not giving us a nail, Eric. Oh gosh,
Yeah,
don't
you
do
gotta
that to us.
carry a hammer around all the time.
Which,
and see what
yes,
happens.
episode 1, hammer. Episode 162, and
The
finally,
nail.
the nail.
There's and then there at the top of the God Mountain, a gleaming golden nail stuck out of the cabinet, holding the entire demon chasm together.
And we're just like, we threw the hammer away months ago. It didn't seem like we needed it.
We threw it at a gremlin when he tried to eat us. We lost it so long ago.
At this
That's
point, I
funny.
just assumed it was useless and a red herring.
It's like, well, you lost. You can't complete the story. Congratulations.
Sorry, audience.
The old school point and click adventure strategy.
Yeah, you didn't save early on. You forgot the crowbar in room 1, so the game is unfinishable.
That's some real Outer World stuff where I just I was being like, okay, so I want everyone to like me. And then I answered one thing wrong. And then they're like, this whole path is closed to you. I'm like, but no.
No.
I
Oh, it
can't
sounds like you're a
100% it.
renegade. It sounds like you're a cool renegade.
Wow,
so I guess we're
rude.
gonna treat you like that.
Wow, rude.
Well, look, thank you so much for coming on and playing through the room. We loved having you. It went very well. I think you should be very proud of your escape room solving ability. And I hope you go into 100 more rooms, Julia. And
Thank
Eric,
you.
you can do as many rooms as you want. But you've already done some.
Also
so
100.
We won't take full ownership over your future joy.
Thank you.
It was a delight and a pleasure.
If people want to find more of the stuff that you're doing out in the world, they want to listen to all your shows, which, hey, audience, you should. They're all very good shows. If you like this, you'll probably like most of the stuff that you hear. I don't know if you want to do stuff together. I'm sure you might have your own little paths of spruiking. But Eric, do you want to start first? Where can people find you online in the world?
Absolutely. Well, you can find me mostly on Twitter, where I spend too much of my time at L_Silvero, EL_SALVERO. My name if I was a Lucha Libre wrestler. You can find me. I'm producing tons of shows out there. The 3 shows that I'm on are Tell Me About It, which is a game show run by a billionaire trying to figure out what your favorite things are. And I'm playing his audio butler, which is really fun. And I do that with Adel Rafai of Hey Riddle Riddle and Hello from the Magic Tavern. Games and Feelings is a games advice show where we answer advice questions about all types of games, video games, board games,
Nice.
tabletop RPGs, escape rooms, sports, all that stuff. And I do a lot of those episodes with Jasper Cartwright, who is wonderful. And I also I'm the DM of Join the Party, where I'm going to throw it over to Julia, where you can plug your 2 shows and you can start with Join the Party.
I'm a player on Join the Party, which is an actual play podcast where we create vast and beautiful worlds and make each other laugh every week. Our current campaign right now is set in a world of plant and bug people where we play pirates on a great salt sea trying to find a infinite lake and a wish-granting salmon. And we've had some other great campaigns. Our first campaign is a high fantasy that starts with a gay wedding. Our second campaign is a modern superhero campaign. Our mini campaign is a Monster of the Week campaign which takes place in a creepy summer camp. And then our current campaign, as I just said, Vertistello. It's wonderful. And my other show is called Spirits. It is a boozy dive into mythology, legends, and folklore. Every week we pour a drink and I teach my best friend Amanda a new story from folklore mythology from around the world over a cocktail.
Wonderful. Well, look, there'll be links to all this sort of stuff in the show notes so you can click through and find all that. Thank you for coming on and playing. Thank you, Danny, for running a great room.
Thank you for being here
Yay!
Bravo.
contributing your skeletal description.
I did describe I wanted to describe something. I thought, I need to have a go. And thank you, everybody, for listening at home. If you want to help support the show, tell a friend, tell an enemy, tell someone. Go online and be like, wow, what a cool show. Because we appreciate all of that. Leave a review. And you can also help support the show by joining the Patreon. Anybody who signs up at any level can appear as an NPC in one of the rooms.
So thank you so much to Sydney Johnson. You took a bit of a beating in this one, but
Sorry,
I hope you
Sydney.
appreciate it.
And then there's also bonus audio for all the $5 donors. You can listen to us solving weird little murder mysteries and hearing all the playtest audio for our rooms and a whole bunch of other fun stuff. There's a new episode every week for them. There's monthly video vlogs for $10 donors. There's a trivia club. There's a whole bunch of cool, fun stuff. So if you want to help support the show, you can sign up there. Thank you, everybody. I think we'll say goodbye. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.